I had General Honore here not too long. Remember him during Katrina? He was the go-to guy after all these politicians were sniping with each other and looking like the Keystone Cops. Well, here we have another hurricane barreling down us. But if you think about it, we have lots of financial hurricanes all concurrent and no one taking responsibility. He does some reminders from our chat. Take a look. They, at least after you came on board, had a central figure to go through. At this point, we don't have that. Should we, or are we getting way ahead of ourselves?
On the international front, we've got a flashpoint in Syria now that is distracting members of the government, and the UN is in session. So we've got multiple lenses to look through in all directions. There are problems. That's why we need strong leadership to solve all these problems.
Which is exactly what our bitter boomers have been saying. We got Leeb back with us, Charlie Gasparino, Charlie Brady, and Gerri Willis to add some sense of normalcy to all of this. Steve, do you buy what he's saying? We just need someone in charge.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't had anyone in charge since the end of the Cold War. I mean, we won the Cold War, and since then it's been going
That's a long time
What date was that?
1990.
So after Bush won.
Since Reagan.
How about Bush 1?
Bush 1 was okay. He only served one term. But, I mean, we've had two great leaders, in my opinion, in the West. I mean, since probably Eisenhower. We've had Margaret Thatcher. You've got to take your hats off to Margaret Thatcher, a woman rising up the ranks in the Tory party, research chemist at Oxford, and taking England by storm. And we had Ronald Reagan in this country.
Aren't you a little impressed by all the women that Bill Clinton had in his White House? All the different.
Yeah, I mean,
he was.
I'm impressed by Clinton's stamina, I'll tell you that. But I mean, I'm not impressed by all the women that he had in the White House.
Charlie, one of the things that has come up is that we don't have someone who's taking charge. We have a lot of finger pointing, but no one's taking charge.
Right. If you look at right now the situation with Obama versus Putin, Putin is very proactive. Obama is being reactive, and every real leader is proactive. And when you're always reacting, you're always playing catch-up.
That doesn't make what Putin's doing right.
No, Charlie, I was almost scared to say that, but you're right.
Yeah.
Because the reason I'm scared to say it, because I don't want anyone to think I like Putin. I can't stand him. He's a communist. He's the worst kind of dictator. But you're right. He is proactive.
He's got high energy.
He does have high energy. And the Washington Post had an article on exactly your point. Obama's speech was totally different than anybody else's at the UN. He didn't talk about development. He didn't talk about anything.
What do you mean nobody to blame?
Well, they're not leading. So, I mean, you give the example of the president.
Whoa.
That's a perfect example.
Who voted for him? All the millennials.
But they're not voting. They're going like sheep to the ballot box and pulling. Yeah.
Does that mean that some of the younger candidates are getting some attention? Maybe Marco Rubio, if the Donald Trump dust settles, might galvanize?
He looks like a kid.
I think they could. He does look like a kid, but he is so articulate. He's so smart.
43,
He's got a
44.
great American story, too.
He's got a great American
story.
story.
I bet you he never catches on in the end. I think the best, and I know this from his supporters, that they're going to hope for is him he is.
Well, who are bitter boomers like yourself than rallying around?
Well, obviously Trump.
Because you're angry.
Yeah, and listen, I've known Donald for a long time professionally, and some of the things he says resonates, I have to admit. I mean, listen, there is a logic that you can't have open borders and a welfare state. I mean, we have to give him credit for that. The political correctness crowd is so disgusting.
It is disgusting.
And all those
really ruined
and the
this country in a
millennials
way.
are the most politically correct generation there is. And they're trying to force that down.
Charlie, do you buy that?
You're talking about borders and Trump. Trump was lambasted for wanting to put a wall in Mexico, yet the Pope was revered and praised, and his kingdom has a 60-foot wall surrounding it completely.
That's right.
I mean, where's the?
To be fair, it's much smaller.
Well,
true that.
It's more well.
And you walk through it if you have to.
Right.
You know what scares me about the Pope? Since you brought him.
Oh, here we go.
No, millennials love the Pope. You notice that? Why?
I think the Pope.
Your kids like the Pope, right? What is going
Everyone
on?
likes the Pope.
No, not everybody.
No,
you don't like him.
I think he's wrong on climate change, and I think he confuses something with something, but I think he brings a needed spirituality into this world.
Exactly right.
He
you know
really
what the
does.
problem is? So the boomers are all so busy guarding their 401ks and making sure they hang on to that job for the next 3 years.
What's wrong with that?
They can't lead. They
So
can't
you're saying we need
step out.
what you're saying is we need an angry boomer in the White House. Right?
Yeah, and
we need somebody to teach.
There you go. They're angry boomers.
The last person
ready to lead the nation.
Look, Look, if you had told me a month ago I would like
Is
Trump,
this scary or what?
I would have called
America,
you crazy.
pack up, get out. Right.
But I have to hand it to my
There's still time
millennial
to go to
son who
Canada.
came home, and he said to me,
Dad, I
like
need $200
Trump.
right?
I like Trump. And I said, Willie, you're crazy. And now all of a sudden I find myself agreeing with him. I thought I'm stunned.
You know what
that I
happened
kind
to you?
of
Because when
agree.
I first, you and I have known each other decades, but when we first started talking, you were like to the left of Karl Marx.
I was. But then
Which
I
is
saw
fine.
what happened.
That's fine. What happened?
What happened was America went downhill, and we need
and the
leadership.
millennials. You
And
really-
it's not that I'm necessarily
no, this is
right-wing.
before they were even born.
No, right, this is before they were born. But it basically are people
when you
that are
start-
leading.
Although when you start listening to the millennials, and unfortunately, I have to work with them, every now and then. But when you start listening to them, you do.
All the young demo, click, click,
You
click.
do get the impression that they were been brainwashed with a lot of nonsense. They don't have a grasp
Who
on.
brainwashed them, my friend?
Yeah.
It was a bunch of boomers.
Yeah, but when I
boomers told them to be
let me tell you something.
politically correct.
When they tried to brainwash me, all those disgusting 1970s and 60s hippie liberals that taught in schools, I rebelled. Yeah. I said, who got?
Well, Neil, one thing I'll say. Can I just defend myself in one way? I've always been pro-choice, anti-capital punishment, against capital punishment.
Right.
Now, that is not exactly a right-wing way of thinking, but that's the way I think. And basically...
Charlie Brady, final word.
What is that?
Final word. I think what we need active leaders, not reactive leaders, and ones that are willing to make the tough decisions, the unpopular decisions, and not worrying about their Facebook likes.
We need a pope.
Bravo.
We need
I think
a pope.
that's really well
We
put.
need a pope that says the power of Reagan compels you.
Our 20-something producer wants us to leave this segment.